Good evening. My name is Leroy, and I'm gonna be talking about the vocal organs. This is homework number 2 for Professor Sabino Morla, section W02. Let's start with it. So let's start with the tongue. It is right here, as you can see. It's the fleshy muscular organ in the mouth of a mammal used for tasting, licking, swallowing, and in humans, it is for articulation. It helps the articulating speech. The tongue also plays a major role in speech sound production and must execute a completely different set of movements and placements than those required for eating and swallowing. There are many muscles and movements that must work together seamlessly in order to produce clear and correct speech. Let's go now over to the teeth. As you can all see, they're right here. A tooth consists in enamel, dentin, cementum, and pulp tissue. The portion of tooth exposed to the oral cavity is known as the dental crown, and the portion below the dental crown is known as the tooth root. Teeth help form words by controlling airflow out of the mouth, meaning that there are certain letters that we can pronounce well if we don't use the teeth correctly, like the Z, T, those sort of letters. Let's go now to the balloon. The balloon is right over here. If we refer to this drawing, we can see that the balloon elevates and lowers during its speech production. Like the tongue, the balloon is incredibly coordinated and capable of very fast and fine movements. During speech, the balloon's prime function is to close off the nasal cavity. This is a necessary function as most speech sounds are non-nasal. Basically, if we didn't have the balloon closing off the nasal cavity, we will all be talking through our noses, which would not be pleasant to listen to or produce, not at all. The balloon does open for 3 consonant sounds. The nasal sounds would be M, N, and N. Let's go to the alveolar ridge. The alveolar ridge is right over here. It has to do a lot with teeth also. The alveolar ridge is a structure that lies directly behind the upper front teeth. It's considered an important structure in speech because the tongue tip continually touches the ridge to form consonant sounds. In fact, the creation of speech sounds, the tongue tip touches the alveolar ridge more than any other oral cavity structure. Now we're gonna talk about the lips. You can see my lips. You have lips. Just for homework purposes, you can see the lips over here also, although we all have them. The lips play a role in changing the resonance of different speech sounds. By altering the shape of our lips, we can form different speech sounds. For instance, for plosive sounds such as P, V, the lips are compressed and then open to produce a rapid, explosive release of the breath stream. Basically, you can see my lips, and if I don't close them a little bit, I cannot pronounce well P or B. It's impossible to do. We can talk about the nasal cavity also. The nasal cavity is right over here. Uh, we talked a little bit about it before, but let's give a full context of it. It's a large air-filled space above and behind the nose in the middle of the face. The nasal septum divides the cavity into two cavities, also known as the fossae. Each cavity is the continuation of one of the two nostrils. The nasal cavity is the uppermost part of the respiratory system and provides the nasal passage for inhaled air from the nostrils to the nasopharynx and the rest of the respiratory tracts. The paranasal sinuses surround and drain into the nasal cavity. It's all connected basically. The nasal cavity is used for the production of nasal sounds. The nasal cavity is combined acoustically with the vocal tract when the velum is lower. It's basically what we said before. The M, the N, those areas are impossible to use without the nasal cavity and the velum working together. Now we're going to talk about the pharynx. The pharynx is right over here, as you can see. Commonly, the pharynx can be called also the throat. It is a muscular fold-shaped passageway inside the body. It connects the mouth and nose to the esophagus, leading to the stomach, and larynx, leading to the trachea and the lungs. The pharynx also plays a role in speech, and it is an enclosed space that can change shape thanks to its muscles. So air is able to travel through the pharynx to the voice box. As vocal cords work to make sound and the larynx opens up, the pharynx is able to amplify the sound. So basically we're talking about the larynx, the pharynx, so many things that work together so we can produce the production of the sound. Now going more into detail when it comes to the larynx. The larynx is right over here, as you can all see. It's right over there. So the larynx, it's also called the voice box. It's kind of obvious why. It is because it is an organ located in the anterior neck. It is component of the respiratory tract and has several important functions, including phonation, the cough reflex, and protection of the lower respiratory tract. The structure of the larynx is primarily cartilaginous, and it's held together by a series of ligaments and membranes. Internally, the laryngeal muscles move components of the larynx for phonation and breathing. Now we're going to talk about the hard palate. The hard palate, it's this little thing right here, as you can all see. It is a thin horizontal bony plate made up of two bones of the facial skeleton located in the roof of the mouth. The tongue and hard palate play an essential role in the production of sounds during continuous speech. Appropriate tongue and hard palate contacts will ensure proper sound production. It is really important to understand this because there has to be a perfect balance between the hard palate and the tongue. So the vibration is acceptable. Talk about the uvula. I actually don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Uvula. It's the little fleshy hanging ball in the back of our throat. That thing over there. Well, that thing that we always try to touch when we are kids. Yes. As part of you, let me just show it over here. So the uvula, it's that thing over there. It's a little fleshy hanging ball in the back of your throat, as part of your soft palate. It is also called soft palate. It helps prevent food and liquid from going up your nose when you swallow. It also secretes saliva to keep your mouth hydrated. The uvula plays an important role in the articulation of the sound of the human voice to form the sounds of speech. It functions in tandem with the back of the throat, the palate, and air coming up from the lungs to create a number of guttural and other sounds. Consonants pronounced with the uvula are not found in English. However, languages such as Arabic, French, German, Hebrew, and some others use uvular consonants to varying degrees. Certain African languages use the uvula to produce click consonants as well. In English, as well as many other languages, it closes to prevent air escaping through the nose when making some sounds. Meaning that in English, uh, it's not that used, or maybe we cannot notice it as much, but it helps um, to keep track on some sounds that are being produced uh, by other organs that are producing sounds. So that's basically it. Now we can talk about the epiglottis. The epiglottis, it is this thing right here. I think we cannot see that. At least I cannot see it if I try to. It is a leaf-shaped flap in the throat that prevents food and water from entering the trachea and the lungs. It stays open during breathing, allowing air into the larynx. During swallowing, it closes to prevent aspiration of food into the lungs, forcing the swallowed liquids or food to go along to the esophagus toward the stomach instead. It is thus the valve that diverts passage to either the trachea or the esophagus. The epiglottis functions as an articulator in the production of pharyngeal consonants and in the vowel A. And it's also really good because without the epiglottis, we're not even able to whisper. To whisper. We can't without it. Let's talk about the esophagus. So the esophagus, I'm sorry, let me show you what it is. It's right here. It is a part of the alimentary canal which connects the throat to the stomach. In humans and other vertebrates, it is a muscular tube lined with mucous membrane. Esophagus speech is a learned technique in which air is flowed or injected, in this case, into the esophagus and then allowed to escape through the pharynx. Appropriate tension of the pharyngeal walls during expiratory airflow results in vibration of the pharyngeal walls, which creates sounds. Let's talk about the vocal cords or the vocal cords. It is also called vocal reeds, but it's commonly known by the vocal cords. It is right here. Sorry, right here. Also known as vocal folds or voice reeds, as I said, are folds of throat tissues that are key in creating sounds through vocalization. The two through vocal cords or folds represent the chief mechanism of the larynx and its function as a valve for opening the airway for breathing and to close it during swallowing. And I think we're reaching, or we're near the end. Let's go with the trachea. The trachea, it's right over here. The trachea is a large membranous tube reinforced by rings of cartilage extending from the larynx to the bronchial tubes and conveying air to and from the lungs. The trachea is also called the windpipe, and it is basically because it conducts air to the other organs that produce sound. So basically, it's pretty important. I mean, it's not only for the vocal organs; it's basically for everything. Without it, we couldn't be able to live. Speech occurs when air flows through the lungs, up the windpipe, trachea, and through the voice box, larynx. This causes the vocal cords to vibrate, creating sound. So basically, this is my explanation and all the information I was able to gather. This is the homework made. Yes. Thank you very much.